Good evening, everybody.
Hello. Good evening.
Hello. Today, nga tsuta dagon seguro katsonti tingin wankor kanala nga tsuta di da karji nyamgu seya ji yor da jatang karji nyamgu seya di tini ji luji ke gone som nga ke gone som yije gone som sonji tine kanda da thanga tini gondo uchi songdo tini ta te tanda inchi kana yore tini ta zo karsina chi simchen ke sanje tang changcho simba senar tizo tini simchen ke tong chi bar chi wala tini nga zo gana cha xiawi na xiji wang cha seya dawo hiwe go ne tini simchen la kandi sindu go wa tini tiga na yi tini yang wang zidi pe wang go ne segro tini go ne simchen kandi sindu go wa tiga na yi ke chapo go ne kandi sindu go wa yang simchen ga hi pe ta jia qingbo zhuba jia qingbo ji kang dari yang tini simchen ke tini ji kang la kang du so ka chang kong hyuwa na ji ji kang la kang tong to ba tindi je ke ta ngo ji teng yo re tini ga he la ji pe jambo chi ne simchen la yang tu to ya tini yong yo ro wa yang ga he la ji pe ta nga so ji ting do ji logo de ti se na yang tindi ke la ji nga zo nga ma bo zhang ji nga da da zo ki ji to ta ne ba la top 我的天气这样的，我看到的样。
Dia pokoma songde
OK，
kagain tena kashe pena local dia de duya kichiru yang na
我这路过的印度亚去的，
tene nga amangpo.
我嘛不长，这里过你怕过个哇，这个是我路过的去那里去，我说看着去头嘛哇，我提看着去吧，可可能了嘛，这里你怕过个哇，你怕做的强吧的，应该过个的，其他的样，过去沙滩啊，个定名字过个哇，沙个定名字，个定名字，这里定名字，他听力去过你怕忙不就变过了哇，我他听力了变去的呢，他看到。tanda karji nyamgu seya, jitang karji nyamgu seya tala thakpo ke karji nyamgu tang, tini hiwe ke karji nyamgu tini yosari, tini ta tanda di nga zo jik thakpo go ne kargu seya ta chongu yosari es.
So last night, when we were discussing the samadhi empowerment, the self-empowerment practice of the samadhi empowerment, then the topic of the 9 moods of dance came up. And so with respect to these 9 moods of dance, there are the 3 moods or expressions of connected with the body, the 3 connected with speech, and the 3 connected with the mind. And so essentially what this is referring to is the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas manifest like in inconceivable forms to bring about the benefit of sentient beings, to achieve the benefit of sentient beings in whatever way that is most effective, in whatever way that is needed in order to tame them, in order to achieve that purpose of their benefit. And so generally, these means of taming beings are referred to as the enlightened activities. And there are the 4 activities, the 4 enlightened activities of the peaceful activity, increasing activity, magnetizing activity, and wrathful activity. So this enlightened activity manifests according to the specific needs and dispositions of beings. So whatever it is that is needed, appears or manifests in the appropriate manifestation and the appropriate need to perfectly suit the needs of sentient beings. So there are some who can tame, who can be tamed through gentle and sort of like a peaceful expressions, that there isn't any activity that is needed other than the peaceful activity, peaceful enlightened activity. But there are some that require, for instance, wrathful enlightened activity. For instance, there are some very powerful and unruly local deities. And those deities would not be subdued through peaceful means. And so therefore, in that case, it is needed, very powerful mantras and very like powerful manifestations of enlightened energy in order to bring those beings under their power, in order to subdue them, in order to tame them, and ultimately in order to benefit them. And so, otherwise, they are very unruly and difficult to control. On the other hand, but these activities, regardless of what the expression of the activity is, the activity itself is nothing other than the nature of love and compassion. So even the very wrathful enlightened activity is pure love and compassion, and nothing other than this. And so in order to, the way that these enlightened activities are accomplished are through the means of the deity. There are the three aspects: the deity, the mantra, and the meditative absorption. And so it is through these three that the enlightened activities are manifest. Also these enlightened activities are represented by these 9 moods of dance, which have both the peaceful and wrathful forms, but actually it is mainly the 9 moods of dance are really actually demonstrating or expressing the different sort of shades of expression that are enacted by the wrathful enlightened activity. So it's really dealing with the different expressions of the wrathful deities. So these 9 moods of dance are the 3 of the body, are sort of the alluring or seductive or enticing, heroic, and terrifying or ferocious. The 3 activities of speech or moods of speech are laughter. Actually, it says menacing laughter, harsh and sort of stern or threatening demeanor, ferocious and thunderous demeanor. And then the 3 of the mind are compassion, compassionate expression, majestic expression, and peaceful or tranquil expression.
da de ji ne da zo nga zo train da molam sambu ju bik molam ke tini ma dishi je shuyare tin da je ta ka chang sambu ju bik molam su song yin ba tang tini ji te ke ji chang su song yin ba tang tiga na ji ke ji da chang ju sim ba 다 흉해 다 추저 노르상 코란게 까와 빠도 미비게 좀 센텔레 되는 단들이 자치와 딜리 니카 치와 메와 보다 드레지 맞아 가서 휴심발이스
So last night we also discussed the source or the origination of this noble, this aspiration prayer for noble conduct or excellent conduct. And in that, we discussed, so how it originated, where it came from, who was the source or the speaker of this aspiration, the author of this aspiration, and the one who requested this aspiration prayer was, or it was due to the request of the Bodhisattva Norzong, the great Dharma king Bodhisattva Norzong. And it was based on the fact that this Bodhisattva Norzong underwent inconceivable hardship and difficulty. He endured, much, he expressed much fortitude and really endured great difficulty in his path of seeking, to really train in the Bodhisattva's practices, or in his path of training in the Bodhisattva practices. And so therefore, based on this, there really is, there are such great blessings that are connected with this aspiration prayer.
다 제당가 추 지라비 다 제당가 조 추치하게 다 당보 추치야 조 렌데르와 렌데데 키친보일 다 렌데데 뭐니 인터레스팅 히어리 다 양면에 겨와다 미게스야 주어와 땡거니 인터레스팅 요레스 베지 초지 힌티디 레라원다고 지로와 하코야노 지 요리 양 초anga 힐라 오니 베베동 레라 하마 고와 티니베 만부 용요리 다 하코야 nga 소베네 차히 미게위 레노이나 다지 가상 휴차요리 미게베 쫀도 요르와 근데 지소 소주당 라 소바당 대가나게 주 참마식 소블라 소바데다 고 미게와리 티치나 고 미게바 임바 하고 요리 미게위 켄데베 둥인 중고 하고다 미게와 파라관도지 수이나다 테 미게베 레잠바 지다 넘바 산지베케 에코다 주칭에지 이나다 테 미게와 레세야노 근데 지 미게와 주빵위나 고 게와 준도지 차루고와 다디 니 주제그리 다 니 주제그리 쓰는다 지고 게와 드로비케 페용 리파pom이 페용라서바 다 요러와 드니 양 디스틱 베동 코카보 드니라 디스틱 삼상가서 디스틱 confusing 요리 티엔디 confusing 카리 요리 슬라비나 당가 해중구 요와 오 저랑 차디 당이나 산지 코모 톰도 레세야노 용구 요라가디 이나다데 가와지 차지한 간디 상구와 가두 상지고 뭐 저라디스 가보러와
So for those who practice the Dharma, we understand that cause and effect, that karma cause and effect is really central to our Dharma practice. We understand the importance of karmic interdependence. And karma, cause and effect, is very interesting. On the one hand, it's very easy, it's very simple, and very easy to understand. So it's very, it really boils down to, just abandoning non-virtue. Non-virtue is the cause of suffering, and practicing virtue. Virtue is the cause of well-being and happiness. So on the one hand, it is very straightforward, but then on the other hand, it's very subtle and very difficult to understand. And there are many meanings which are almost kind of hidden. We can't really conceive by any means the extraordinary intricacy of karmic interdependence. But then, of course, on the other hand, it's very easy. So we just, can easily understand that the non-virtues, such as the 10 non-virtues, killing, stealing, engaging in sexual misconduct, and so on and so forth, that these are these are all, you know, if we engage in these actions, that the result, the direct result or fruition of that is suffering. And then to abandon those non-virtuous actions and to take up virtuous practices, to engage in what is wholesome, such as the 10 virtues, is what will really bring about our temporary and long-term well-being and happiness. And this is what was taught by the Buddha. But on the other hand, it's sometimes kind of confusing. And we hear things that sort of don't quite make sense to us, or maybe we don't fully believe, like something, for instance, like if you recite a single mantra, even reciting a single mantra leads to Buddhahood, becomes the cause for enlightenment.
갈라그선 따야 저 상지고나 근데 백가로만 볼 초사고 그래스 백가로만 뭐 초마사위는 상지 말이세요 다 되지 용구요와 ben hakko son te dis contradictory yorwa
Yeah.
manji dona sanji gre la yori yene ya ine jo sanji warchi wala karomon bu so sa gore la yorwa.
And because this feels like a contradiction, because on the other hand, we hear that to attain the state of Buddhahood requires eons, you know, kalpas of accumulating merit and virtue. So how could it be that just by reciting a single mantra, a single mani mantra, would become the cause of awakening?
Ine ta nga so yakbo jikta bi na detail ji ben song de shu wi na ta pena the king of aspiration sambuju bi kmonam kjalbundi do ji tombi na moni charjik tombi na tini ji karwaji ke chosa tu kore songdo ta di jumse khani ji so gu yore o nga ko di 상주 데 차직 도도 티다 나라 베 소된 로지 레베스나 나 소된 로 차요 말이 이나 카리스나 베 까워 빠드미 봐 지네 대와 노르잔케 드가 너이 텔 때니 벤타 라마 자단 쭉베 기케베 친합 누파 찍도 두셔 보다 든리지 요디 되네 지금 가서 차직 동이네요 그게 와직 베다 소소는 좋다고
And for instance, it says that by reciting, even just reciting this King of Aspiration prayer, this prayer for excellent conduct, even just once, becomes like the karmic accumulation of an entire eon or kalpa worth of virtue. So how can that be? What is the reason for this? And the reason for this is that it isn't just our own merit alone, but contained within this aspiration prayer is such extraordinary merit and power. It is, you know, all of the merit and virtue that has been gathered by Norzong, the Bodhisattva Norzong, throughout eons or kalpas of limitless kalpas of gathering virtue. All of the blessing and power of those 110 lamas or teachers that he attended in his path, you know, of that led to the origination of this pure aspiration prayer. All of this is contained, you know, all of it is gathered into the words of these aspiration prayers, or into this aspiration prayer.
제가 나이트네 다 아무라도 송유와 이게 백가바지스 다조 직도 먹으면 알아서 베게되네 이게 까바빠는 거지 지스 진디인도 니 람간디 몽바라 나나기 람간 롱엔데라 대잠지 갈리주고 말레스 나나기 갈리잠자고 말레스 좀생 가리스는 게 뭐니 까바빠는 메바 지스 나랑게 티기직 토탕 누가 친합 드릴레 때네 니 진조 신들이 몽베키 니 람가 가는 동에들라 특zam지 나나게 가지고 말이스 이나 똑같이 그래 정도 왔다 유튜브에 그 짜치 뭐와 유튜브에 되는데 중국어다
So, for instance, Milarepa also said, I have endured great hardship and difficulty, essentially so that you do not have to. So in the future, then you do not have to go through what I have gone through, or you don't have to endure such extraordinary hardship and difficulty because I have already done it for you.
Not
Or,
for you, but in tan ye kao mambo ji bi jun sen tele tene ti chinlap lene ji nipa tela tene nga na ji kawa ji machina chang so to pa che gre nga na ji to pa che gre so
but because of, in the future, due to all of the hardship and difficulty that I have endured, then due to the blessing and power of that, then you can receive the blessing and power without in having to endure that great difficulty and hardship yourself. You can give rise to realization.
다 tiga na yi nga zo ji pena yang tende yungdo wa pena lamanga heke chi nga pe mambo dani wa chi milen ti dang yang do da yang ma hi lamanga heke chi sa ji le pe cha be da bom tende se gi yor wa tende se ni yang lama to zu kin du ndo ina tende lama to sung do ta chi ro be 차직 세나더니 저 깔바지 비파 타투 그래서야 너 어다 소좀 야채 뭐 쏘고 그래서야 돼. nembar에 가서
Wait, chakshik sana.
차직 세나 저 깔바지 비파 타투 그래서야 너가 니어와 어다 더서 가서다 빼 고지가 그때 인터 커넥션 지거와 어다 돼.
Or for instance, there are some teachers, some lamas who, they've really accumulated an extraordinary amount of mantras. And they've practiced many deities, and they have accumulated like, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of accumulations. And sometimes those lamas will say, for instance, if you just do a single prostration, then this purifies like an entire eon of negativity. And that is because everything is interconnected.
다 디코 니파틴 레브요레스 다소 니팔 레브 하고 요와
Gareginupa.
다 상지 진랍이요. 어 가서 들어가 지추로 팀마지 지니 추하거나 추 진랍이요 말어. 진랍 매비 좀 되는 가서 똑같이 이거 말이 니파 가요 말어. 이네 추지 그 니파다 간디지 레브요레스나 니파 추 중에 코라라 니파 요리라 티네 그 디기 딩 코스도 막 참아는 니파지 랩톱 그러와. 다 디기 니파다 티네 랩톱 그래서 베나테요와 장조 선바지 룽바제 나라 대기요나 장조 선바지 룽바 티키 나라 심티안당 둔로당 투사마 니송 로그 말해 정도 어다 딘리게 거지 당가 저지 유 야보직당 TV나 딘리게 봐요. yes.
So because of the power and blessings of the Buddhas, the Dharma is really inconceivable, the power and blessing of the Dharma. And so in this case, for instance, the one who practices Dharma, that power extends to all those within their sort of orbit or field. The power extends to the whole kind of community or entourage. So for instance, in the case of the Lama, who is engaged in who has done all of this extraordinary practice, then it is really, also those, when he says just by doing a prostration, you can purify an entire eon of negativity. And that process is assisted, through the power of, for instance, his practice. And same likewise. So, as it is said, if a bodhisattva lives, wherever like one bodhisattva appears, all of the sentient beings in that area, like all of the creatures, the non-human beings, the animals, they're all protected from suffering. Oh, and they all they will not fall to the lower realms.
어다 디인디티 다 기획티네 다 가서 그 니파 알아와 테네리 대가 나지 이렇게 양 매개와 테네 양 단기 콘티와 나지를 nga 좀 매개서 언더지 그만도 오지는 매개와리 때 하고로 와 맞서 매개 임바라오지 얘는 양 한마고가 뱀마시비 top 침부 그 소치와 당 꼬마 잡을이 배 도야도 게 텐디게 양 구유티니 티야 그냥 가요레스 다티 칸디데스 휴비나 딱 맞춰 가지나디 데리다 맞춰 깨잘 납네 책 카통에 아이어와 근데 미지 카통네 근데 지 야고면도 로라나 미티케니 치 칸디마 미티 칸디마 가서 하 먹어니 근데 지배 크리티시즘도 지비나 계시 파기 미티 장초 선반도 이미나 근데 가서 배치 냐원로 레지 싹대 거와 이나 파다는 거가 스노다 미게원로 하고요 말고 디스 크리티시즘 이나 다 not big deal 로지로와
Wait, Gande?
디스밀 카다오 땅야도 거야 보여 말에 도지라비나 big deal not big deal 그마 마이크마 그반 잡아나 이 말에 되네 심지어지 와나 이 말에 와다 대다 not big deal 삼그러와 이나요 고 뱀마시비 키트니 빅파 찹침보 되네 손으로 요레스
Likewise, the same goes for non-virtue. So, for instance, it's really easy to identify the really kind of obvious forms of non-virtue. You know, it's not too difficult to kind of, you know, be pretty convinced that, you know, to engage in a non-virtue such as killing is going to have really negative consequences, or to steal, you know, to steal something is going to have really negative consequences. And so therefore we may feel pretty resolute about avoiding those, you know, those pretty obvious non-virtues. But then there are other sort of more subtle forms of non-virtue that are really difficult to understand, you know, that they really are non-virtue, and they really can build up, and in fact they can easily actually become the cause. They can even become worse than taking the life of a living being or stealing. They can truly become the cause for falling to the lower realms. For instance, in one of the kind of the easiest way to accrue negativity is through speech. We engage in so much mindless speech, you know, especially something, you know, where we like when we criticize others, we criticize someone, or we gossip, criticizing others. And if it is in fact that, and it seems like it's maybe not such a big deal, it doesn't really feel like it really, oh, you know, there's no way, it's not as if I'm killing someone, you know, it's just speech, you know, it's not a really big deal. But if we end up criticizing and gossiping about somebody actually who is a bodhisattva, this can in fact become the cause for taking rebirth in the hell realms. And so even though it may not feel like a very big deal, it actually can be a really huge accrual of negativity.
진짜 루즈지 요래 되네 단다 맞았다 그 동샤 요라 동샤 하고도 있어 동샤 클래스 숨소리가 세야 동샤 제일
숨쉬송아래 숨쉬송이래
숨소리가 아니다 다 강다 강인 숨소리가
숨쉬송아
다 강다 약화지 요라 와티 약화지 요라 다 동샤 제탕가 저통 다 되네 약화 솜도 티나 동샤 클라 약화지 요래 라 숨소리가 약화지 다데 컨디스 총브리 라비나 되네 당연히 스파제 선지 해쇼디비 가면서와 딘리제글라 되네 고 장접 심바 숨수롱아 다디 룽바티는 로그여서와 룽바지나 친요레스 티친비가라 되다 고 총바지 되네 고다디 고지 액시덴트로 와다 간다 이나 총바지 되네 코라서 북해요로 와 부지 시요레스 대시도 되네 다 총바티고 다디 비면도서 배 누보리 샤스타 이제 코라서 몇대 전 내가 요 말봐 이나야 다 코라서 넘버 남도 직사니 오, 딱 콘솔베 누구리 샤스.
Sur begdujare.
테다 티 장저 선바티 숨수nga 티 랩이 요rol롱 바티나.
So pugu de shiure, dini?
테니 마상지 북지 시요와.
Mhm.
오다 마상디 파마디게 땅가 저 롱바티나 뭔가 로그요로 다 콘솔베 누자레 노다 남도 사이로 콘솔가 저 롱베나래. 테니 니 북시요레 노라고요로 다 산다다.
Okay.
이나 telling money 북시야라 related 칸 요말 장저 선바 related at all.
Mhm.
이네 야다 코나스 mistake 로와.
Mhm.
mistake chini be confusing cha mistake chini oda o konsonde sajandel래 디니 딱 나 콩콩소 야 보면도 가르치는 이 북티 요래 나오다 디니 지요로와 오다 디니 콩 보디 사파로와 디니 산지 줌된데 켄네 다디 모네 타네다 또야 클라티 헨라 산지 코라야 지마라 헨 지리샤 디니 딘탈 디니 단다 창조 섬바 숨치수기데 야네 디니 다 야파 푸그레스 디마티나 디니 다 냐손도 그래 좀도 오다 틱손도 디니 지
Kare ngin song la to kare.
어
Te abo ko ma.
냐손도 하고 돼
Re ha ko song chirang so ba gom no no. Na te kare la yin. Dini?
또 냐손도 그래 슬라이바
Su dini yang ti su lap song. Ti nga yabo.
어때 상제기다 랍고요와 계속 야파 마지나 디네 디북도 속 나고요로 부 파마 어 콘소다 디니 랍요 있는 거는 거네 not big deal 히라라 코란소다 디니 랍고요 지로 뭐 당원이 딱 콘스티스 10 유지로와 남토 사유 유지로 마타 히루지 베데 에 베타로 ngatonda in be kamchindo ja 티케샤 요마로와
Okay, yabo ko ma song yin yang kemendo.
right so this terwa de ina consulta tegas nawo that randomly labgoyowa or randomly o ngato di metesole tinga bukhye sonda wala but not really serious still not yet serious
Kong so kecha de.
oh tini serious ngato be temdo to o konsul ngato bukhye son se tini on dilse yomarwa ina ya be de kachimboles
Dini tama kong so gare de jangchub sema de ha ko ne kong so la la yore be gande chao song. Dini kong so
그 라비 요러치랑 산지 약파 푸스 다 약파 간디 푸그리 랍나 산지 코너 쇼 티네 지나트소 케티 지나스는 부다 보트소 테 약파 푸요레스 키시 약파 마푸이나 냥가 요레 노톤다
So there is, for instance, this practice called the Tongshak, and it is the confessions of the 35 Buddhas. And so the way that this practice came about was that actually there were these 35 bodhisattvas who
maybe 34 is it?
Or maybe 34 who traveled to this region, kind of this village. They were visiting this region, and this accident happened, and one of the children in the village suddenly died, and of course the family was just devastated, and there was this rumor that started, that it was because of these 34 these 34 individuals who were there, in the area, because of course it wasn't related to the bodhisattvas at all, but somehow it became sort of like through sort of this misunderstanding. The thought was, well, it was when they arrived or when they appeared that this child died, and so they blamed the bodhisattvas for the death of the child, and yet it also wasn't sort of like a serious accusation. It was kind of like this gossip that just developed where they sort of claim, said things sort of carelessly, like, oh, it must have been because of, those guys who came here. And as soon as they came here, then this happened. And so then understanding, knowing this, then eventually, when the bodhisattvas told them, the parents, that if they don't confess this negativity,
Sanji said Sanji understand then Sanji 하고 요 what happening
so then the Buddha actually understood everything that was happening. And so it was the Buddha actually who told the parents that they really needed to confess this negativity, that if they didn't confess this negativity, then that they, that this could become the cause for them to be reborn in the lower realms, that it was actually would be very dangerous. And so they made sort of this elaborate display of offerings and such, and engaged in this elaborate practice of confession to these 34 bodhisattvas together with the Buddhas. And so it became the confession of the 35 Buddhas.
어다 티인디 다 조카스나 가서 다이 콘슈바나 이리 그 게덴가시 베레라오고 하과야라고 노티스볼 티 용구요레라야 게데카히레야 징가 supeti 나와 메와 다 게요 마레로 삼네티니 동해 요레 다 조카스나 가서 데리다 아직 아라차르세야라고 다 아직 현기 지다 종조야 암라 소바당 그래서이나 초 파다리라 당기 컨트리와나리 할레 디파노 요마르와 이나티나 디파 페침보 용거요레 티엔디타 제탕가 좋다 파기랑가 보디사와 마임비나야 지 대송도 배낭가 좋지 초도 탐색직관다고 지나 상가 durjetik바 라고레 테닝가 좀 분도 차디요레 상가지도 다른 틀 약시 토그로와 텐디 차디요레 야 내가 나기겠다 맞죠디네 individual 선도지 임비나데네 지금에 상지 구성토 연내 틀린게 당니 인텔리지 요대와 차디요레 틀린데 가서 상가 추친래 다바장 소야데 줌센테라와 텐딩 가서 진동직 대나베 현감레 세양로 나주지 심지한테 다탐지를 하다 하모레 세 갈라고 해서나 individual respect 다티 제야디 고페 마시비케 딱 가서 추치야라 배야 고갑 센베 초지디디 렐라고 임바 아티니 추치야 고갑 연구 요리라 sabza 마지나야 고지 맞아 내가 미게라고 임바라고 맞아 하 마오네 돈달이야 미게 휴치 못 차려야 다 근데 연구 요리스
So some virtues and non-virtues are very obvious, they're very noticeable, and some are very easy to overlook, such as idle chatter, such as criticizing others or pointing out the faults of others, talking, enjoying, speaking about such things. And so this really, it's not difficult to to accrue those types of negativities. They don't feel like a very big deal. They don't feel like they're heavy, accruals or heavy accumulations of negativity, but they actually really can be very, very, become very heavy negativities. And so for that reason, it's so important, to be very cautious when it comes to, engaging or accumulating any, level of negativity, no matter how seemingly small or insignificant. So especially, for instance, when it comes to, with our Dharma brothers and sisters. So if we say all sorts of, things about our Dharma brothers and sisters, this really is, a negative accumulation of speech. And not just that, but actually any individual, anyone, no matter who they are, everybody actually has as their essence the qualities of the Buddha's enlightened body, speech, mind, qualities, and activities. And so therefore, to insult, to criticize and focus on the faults of others becomes the same as really criticizing or denigrating the Buddhas. And so this is why, as Vajrayana practitioners in Secret Mantra, we focus on pure view. So we focus on cultivating a view which sees the outer container, that is the environment or the universe, as a pure Buddha field, and all of the sentient beings therein, or all of the people and beings, as male and female bodhisattvas, or male and female deities. And so if we see all the beings as male and female deities, then we have deep respect for one another. And so for that reason, it's really important, because all beings really are the deity in essence. Then we really have to be very careful in how we regard one another. And if we are, if we do sort of, treat one another with this kind of criticism and disregard, always sort of putting ourselves above others, or trying to exalt ourselves above others and push others down, then this really becomes a very vast accumulation of negativity.
다 디인이 다 디가 나이 다 가서 다 디양더니 가서 다 딘디지 했더니 하마오비 메게비 킬라 레 마사와 근데 데베킬레 자첨부 드로토바데 다조 몰람리와 지 몰람 세안델레 때네 되네 지금 가서다 몸바라더니 지 심장기 통치야 이날에 딘디 단달라임바 레 사치 못 마사와 하고와 딘디 지 정말 지워라 몰람 고고요 와다 디니드네 저 몰람 세야데 베 개첨보리 디리다 지금 남가나 마송테네 고지 갈세보다 the good direction 도 뭐 차노 요리 티니드네 다 몰람리 티니다 티니마 휴긴스
And so a very powerful way to accumulate virtue is through consistently making prayers of aspiration, or doing aspiration prayers. And the aspiration prayer is really setting the intention for, pure, 마음보 레 사춘보 마음
마음발레와 마음방아 람가 약본 로야 라 direction 도 오지 차비어스 몰람티기 테마도 가도다 삼상 가서 be mindfulness your mari chanjo sambala katan sigede megewa taga sti mege sosegiwa 다 딘디위 모형 위치들라 다 가서 몰람세야 개체 모르와 되겠어
And so the aspiration prayer really ensures, that we go, that the future is directed toward the path, that it really is, directed based on pure intention, pure Dharma intention, and that the path will continue in that direction. And this really also helps to counteract all of those sort of negativities that have been accrued through heedlessness. So sometimes we don't have so much mindfulness. Sometimes we, engage in negative speech. We perhaps have unknowingly criticized bodhisattvas and so forth. And so all of those non-virtues can be counteracted by consistently, the really powerful virtue of these great really vast aspiration prayers.
단디니 망아서 기타 요리 이래야 단디리
And
칼라
sort of ensures that we go in a good direction.
다 디니 단디리 말라비아텔라 다 디니지 용쇼 스탄하라고 다 디니지 드롭쇼 용쇼 스타디마 기타 용거로 칼라기요 나와다 디니지 nga 디니지요 디니지 드롭쇼 용쇼 로라고요레 스타 디니마 상마라오지
And so the aspiration prayer is sort of sealed by these statements of, may it be so, may it come to be like this, may this be accomplished.
디니다 당보디 nga서 데레네 네베 상제 남다 촉주예서 다주기로 네베 상제 남다 촉주예 이제 그냥 다음에 강조 초반조 강요 마종타다 rabnyo와 상적 창조 넘버 상지 쭝스
So then the picking up in the aspiration prayer for excellent conduct, we, just after the verses of the 7 branches, actually it's on the second page. and it is verse number 1, 2, 3, 4. And it says, "May you Buddhas now living in the worlds of the 10 directions, and all you gone to freedom in the past, accept my offerings. May those not yet arisen quickly perfect their minds, awakening as fully enlightened ones."
다 디는 데베크 상제 zon다 데베크 상제 남 zon다 데베 상제 된 데베 상제 제 니도 텐디 마인바 초주 다 초주 가상지 루스 휴자로와 초현 삼지 땡워 오다 텐디게 고 상제 데베크 상제 아타 테니 다 다달 효베크 상제 다 담지 라테네 직다 송 톡와 텐디 기테네 상제 라테네 초바 푸기 송레
So actually in the Tibetan, it starts off with the Buddhas of the past. So all of the Buddhas who have already appeared, all of these Buddhas in the, and not just some, but all of them without exception, all of the Buddhas who have appeared throughout the 10 directions. So the 10 directions being, as we said before, the 4 cardinal directions, the 4 the 4 ordinal directions or sort of sub-directions or intermediate directions, and the directions of above and below. And so then it says, and all of the Buddhas who are currently, who currently exist, who all of their, so to all of these,
탄데 상지 라탐지 라테네 초바 푸기
so we make offerings to all of the Buddhas of the past, present, and future, or the of not future, just past and present.
와다 텐디 텐디 베 초바 년콜 어떻게 초바 예바 텐디 체니 스타트 텐디 다 디야 카야 마존 직텐 도마나 다른 바 상지
Deva yang dena de maung ba dadung malakin lagiro.
다 테리 카야 마존 직텐 도마나스 카야 마존 테다 람녀와 삼조 창조를 말상지 다 마존베 상지 예조리 마존베 상지 좀다 개탄가 좀 마존베 상지 총로요와 가능하다 가서 상지군 사주 토고로와 근데 사주 윤달레네 대와 와 사주 타마 팀이 창조 선바다 탐지 사주네 대와 와 대다 탐지더니 족보 다 팀이 카마디 원다오지 배 코라베 딱가서 그지 맞지 quickly 지나서베 팀이 말티 스카데와 팀이 마임바 어떻게 사주네 대와 정말 람상거나 상지 왔다 잡녀 족보 치랑서 팀이 지 삼바 조바라와 다 상지야 너바요와 상지야 너바요와 나이티니 족보 팀이 조로나 조토쇼스라고다
So then it also says, may those who have not yet arisen, or those Buddhas who have not yet come to be, have not fully, perfected their minds, may they quickly ripen into fully perfected Buddhas. May they quickly perfect their minds and awaken into fully enlightened ones.
다 디슈라 가서 상제 행용 정화서 나 특히를 기타 통나래도 있는다 상제 행감 야부 장야 와 행공 야부 중요하로 텔레비에서 서러들라 상제 행용 정화스
The next survey.
우리 next kit 통다디 just meaning general meaning 기타로와
The Sanjay Shingam.
용 정화
Yongsu Jangwa sina?
다 purifying 거로
So then the next verse.
쇼추 관리 행남 진이바 그다 예체용 타버요 창조 희망 중에 야와당 상지 세지라도 강화로 다 책임이 당보든도 당보의 행위 경험체
So then the next verse says, may all worlds in the 10 directions be entirely pure and vast. May they be filled with bodhisattvas surrounding Buddhas gathered beneath a Bodhi tree.
我在听的超剧从那超剧一天谈的呢，超剧一天香港前年吧，就在香港这你听的没吧，香港还这样呢，是吧？香港七场，香港被马路吧，我知道他们这香港场了，被那外边的香港被香港的被价钱不就用说，是呗？被香港的他过来被漂亮了，他我的漂亮不老我那长么长相被。 香港价钱不，香港长龄的吧，我的听你就用说是这个长不你
的。So then it says, all of the worlds in the 10 directions, may all the worlds in the 10 directions be entirely pure and vast. So this is, referring to, sort of the entirety, the purification of all the world systems, all that appears throughout space and time, all the fields, in the 10 directions, may they all be purified and become pure, pristine Buddha fields or pure realms. So however many there are in the 10 directions, may they all become completely pure Buddha fields like Dewachin or Sukhavati, and become extraordinarily vast and numberless, so that they're really, that all that fills the expanse of space is nothing but these pure Buddha fields, these limitless pure realms.
다 뒤쇼들의 거리에서 창조 희망 중에 열화탕스 좀다 배는 상지 샤샤도 봐 창조 행동 군도에 상지로 와 어다 된두 대 나신 봐다 상지 배 창조 희망 중 열화탕스 다 상지 탐지 손에 상지 뒤야 상지 지구만야 가장 거지 대 세븐을 배나 용반나이 상지 코나 지구만이 봐 근데 상지가 콜 되네 배나다 자세 창조 선바 다 단지 되네 다 단기 현감 요구 같은 현감 찾아 되네 배 상지에 다 되네 디견 거 창조 선바 처음에 칸쇼
네, 저하지 뭐야.
다 비슷한 로라운다
So then as it says, may they be filled with bodhisattvas surrounding Buddhas gathered beneath a Bodhi tree. And so for instance, like the example of Buddha Shakyamuni, who attained full awakening beneath the Bodhi tree and became, this vast, there were so many disciples who gathered around him, all of the bhikshus and all of the bodhisattvas, and so in this way, in all of these Buddha fields, may there be these fully perfected Buddhas who go to sit beneath the Bodhi tree and become surrounded by a gathering of perfected, or of exalted beings, of bodhisattvas in every pure realm throughout space and time, become completely filled.
이나 창조 행동 다 뒤쇼라 가서나 장 심지어 탐지라 대화 심지어 탐지라 대화 내쇼 선비 삼바트리 스키니 토나디 심지어 담지 배 대원된 효로지
Mhm.
다 텔레칼라고 열라비나 쇼치 심지어 강남 진이바 다다다 네미 대원죠 로와 균지 추지 통나네 튠버초지 레와랑 로바쇼스.
So then the next verse says, may as many beings as exist in the 10 directions, may they always be well and happy. May all, actually, it sounds like this is not correct. It says, may all samsaric beings live in accord with the Dharma. But actually it seems to be saying, may there be harmony among all religions. And may their dharma, and may every dharma wish be fulfilled.
다 강나 초춘 직天초주 심지어 강나 진이 봐서 초주 심지어 다 땡고 초주 하고 그러와 다 초주 빼면 몰라 살아 다 된디 다 진이 봐서 다 진이 세야 빼면 통도 진이 수다 뭐 여러와 진이 세야 돼 갈라고 그러나 다 참아라고 그래 진이 빼 수다 수이 나와 참아라스 더다 다 네미 되어 다 나자 여러와 나도 비 루중 투그러와 루베 루 나자 여다 나도 중화 투그러와 나도 륜데레트 중화가 땡여래 중화가 땡데베 까라 그 중화 찬용 거 말아와 드네 마녀도 나도 중제는 초 나용 그러와 디나고 요래 되네 루지키 나자러와 대가 나지게다 나도 동아존다 용몽바 너자시다한테 뭔가 차돌라서도 동안 쪽니 야 샘나고다 니 빌루다 샘자 쪽로고다 티니다 간 너디디 휴비나 티네 찍다 하나 지고시라 요 말이다 대오 요 말이 어다 틸리지게 다 나데와 강나 진이바 스다다트 님이 어다 티니 나자 더달리 참아 저러었다 파기는 디 초주 긴지ken 디나나테니 직다 선나요나 샘지가 샘지키나 때는 나기요나리 루지고는 나기요나리 다 가서 단다 빼는 내리 시제자기라고도 다 내리 시제자기다 세기 말이 대가 나기 가서 기획 동사 제지 썼다 좀 무슨 direct 동사 제출 수요래다. 다 강다 들리지류다. 초응이 좀 가리요나. 나야 주신 간리제 요비나더니 직다 담지더니 니메와 처러나. 테인다 단기 공휴원한테 인제 첨부. 되네 승리한테다 담지 배가서 대화 대외주 담된 버서지라고도 어떤 나기더니 승리한 담지 배 대화 내효스다. 나차다 담기를 tor효스라고 그래.
So then, as it says, may all may all the beings throughout these 10 directions, and of course, and here it doesn't. May as many beings as exist. Actually, here it says it, so it's like as many beings as can be found, or as many beings as exist throughout the 10 throughout the 10 directions. May however many there are, whoever there is, and however many there are, may they be free from illness. So may they be well, may they be without illness. And so this is referring to both physical illness as well as mental, a lack of well-being, mental and emotional lack of well-being. So the body being comprised of the 5 elements, then as long, this body of the 5 elements experiences disturbance, in sort of the equilibrium of these 5 elements, and therefore physical illnesses ripen on the body. And there are all of the sufferings, the various types of sufferings experienced by beings in samsara, specifically the three types of suffering, such as, the suffering of suffering, the suffering of change, and the all-pervasive suffering of compounded phenomena. And so whoever, all of these sufferings, the mental and emotional suffering and lack of well-being, not mm, feeling discontent and depressed or unhappy. May all of these various forms of illness, may the beings be liberated from all these various forms of illness, whoever they are, and from whatever types of illness or lack of well-being that they are afflicted by. May all of these pains be completely alleviated. May they be completely alleviated of these of such suffering and lack of well-being. And so essentially what this is generating great compassion. In this verse, then we are directing great compassion toward limitless sentient beings, with the wish that all beings may experience, temporary freedom from difficulty and hardship, temporary freedom from illness, and all forms of suffering.
Tene tan rowa gyunji choji tongna nen tumbar choji rewa roba sho zong da rowa gyunji zong da rowa gyunji choji tongna da jatang di nangba jibo la buyo samari tan zambaling di na chulo yorwa chulo pe mongbo yore ina da chulo seya de ta ko ji wiyu thomen da yorte ngone china chulo seya di ko ji simchen la pen toya tene ji da supposed to re ta ina yang ko tini ji rowa pen toya kiru imbari ina yang ta ji ta sangji konsu tamji chenbara wa tini yang simchen pen toya re ti ina yang ta chulo ji la tini mantu ya chulo le teni yang simchen pen toya ka tsabla tini noba ji yor wa tini tela ji chulo pen zui la tini den sem yore chulo pen la chado yore wada tindi den den sem ta chado ta wada tindi chi ji tene chulo cholo yore wada tindi indu ta tindi mayong sho sone tene ta chulo su ta si na tene pe sama nyam tu tumbo wa nyamne 대가 나지게 다 chulo su su ke ji ko chonda ina ri kari na ri kari na 야보지 안 줘. 코나 속에 어디 있는데 주로 두서를 배 두반도 어디 매와 자동 전세 매와 튠바 초지 스페
So then, as it says, may all the religions or traditions, spiritual traditions of the world live in harmony, or all of the spiritual traditions live in harmony. And so, there isn't, it isn't just the Buddhist religion or tradition that exists in the world. There are many different spiritual traditions. And all of these spiritual traditions have the potential to bring benefit to beings, to create, happiness and in the minds of sentient beings. So the intention is to be of benefit. They're supposed to be of benefit. But what ends up happening is that there is often conflict. So each religion or spiritual tradition, out of sort of competitiveness or jealousy or being stuck in their own fixed views about things, then there is a lot of strife and unnecessary violence and suffering that can happen through religious traditions not being able to live together or exist together respectfully with one another in harmony. So here the aspiration is that all of these sort of spiritual traditions may live together in mutual respect without kind of jealousy or without disparaging one another, but to live together with, or to sort of to exist in harmony.
That is Shugla Tereda, Chanjo Simba Mijiba, only Chanjo Simba Jeep Mandova, Chanjo Simba Jisulo Batala. Didn't that see
Te gemma de abokoma zonga insana denda de yang de yang de tumbargi jela dene de karere.
Rava on Robert Rota, Tangiti, Himadi. What the chulo to some
Gainsana de gemma de sina may their every dharma wish be fulfilled.
That every Dharma wish la Yora, in a Monigina, and the chulo in it, Honas chulo relate to wish to be a horse.
Oh, okay. So it says, may their every dharma wish be fulfilled. But actually, he said that as this is having to do with like all of these different spiritual traditions, the dharma wish is actually referring to each of the sort of dharma wishes of these different traditions.
Tene, that is Shugla, not a Terila, Chanjup Simba, Jeep Mandoya, Chanjo Simba, Laba. That Telakala Wursena, Yarwa Gunji Jis Lop Chordes, Sambo Juba Yons Zordi Jings, Sutem Juba Timmy Yonta Ars, Tadamanim Jumi Jumos.
So then the next verse says, remembering my past lives.
No.
No, that's what it says in English. Yeah.
Yarwa Gunji Lop Chordes.
No.
Getting past love is next time.
Oh. Well,
maybe I missed one.
Virginia, I put the Callahan translation in there for you.
Thank you. So then, maybe, may I perform the conduct of awakening and remember my lives during all states?
I think.
And all my successive lives from birth to death, may I always be renunciated. That's the next one here.
Or maybe I can.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, sorry. Okay, that was still that. That was my Changjop Simba, Tana, or that Changjop Simba, Miji Bas, that Changjop Sam Miji what. Changjop Juba Tane, that do James, and Loa going to Java Temperature, Sarah going to Chimoja, and a thousand dollars up in your horse.
So remembering my past lives in all varieties of existence, may I practice the Bodhisattva way, and thus in each cycle of death, migration, and birth, may I always abandon the householder's life. And you can see this alternative translation also in the chat box.
Okay, so the Lana mi bit, Lana mi batanada, Lana mi be, Yanta or be Chanchop, Sanji Salatini, Doji Zotin, Parrot Chimba Togua, or Parrot Chimba to Chanchop Simbik, Laba, or Joba, or that time be, just a Chanchop Simbik, Joba Laboche, Parrot Chimba, or Labawati, Da Jujin, start Labgins on it, Labasho, no Labgins. You know that changes some bit, that changes some young chickens, cheap or short, no love.
So here, the aspiration is to never forget the practices of the Bodhisattva, to always train in the Bodhisattva conduct, engaging in the unsurpassed six perfections, the six paramitas of Bodhisattvas, and to really perfect this excellent, noble conduct throughout all future lives. May I practice the Bodhisattva way, and thus in each cycle of death, migration, and birth, may I always abandon the householder's life, or here, as it says, may I always be a renunciate in all my successive lives. Throughout all
티니다
my
조 가스나 테리 로와 군도 제와 템번 요소다 아 제당 같이 제와 칭 라오지 템비나 아 고타잠지 펜바 요 말와 인다 지kin다 고제와 맞지 세 니와 텐스게 인다 조원디나 칼라고 슬라비나 테네지 니 제와 오마라 테네지 아니 창조 심비 라바 라바 아 테네지 창조 심비 넘바 휴와 아 창조 셈 지바 다 들리지 그 심지어 그 통치바 어떠다 담진이 대hen효 스러와 대hen이 디 윤투니 와 들리지 용쇼 어서 땅 가서디 지금 몰람스 배 개체 뭐로와 정말 또 지역 뭐말 배 소놈 자체보지 사 근데 양 지역 지글인데 정말 지소나 근데 용거 말와 되니 들리지 되니지 지와 네 체력 쌓이게 개와다 담지 템바 디지에스 튠바 디지에스 조바 what a teenage was.
So essentially, I'm really winded. In all of my successive lives, may I always remember the practices of a bodhisattva. So wherever it is that I am born, may I always enter the practices, the trainings of the Bodhisattva. May I take the vows, may I be a renunciate, and may I take, for instance, the different levels of vows, in particular, the Bodhisattva vows. And may I, but the emphasis here is essentially, may I remember. May I remember throughout all these successive lives. And therefore give rise in each of these successive lives, give rise to the mind of awakening in unbroken continuity from lifetime to lifetime in each successive lifetime. The Sangma Jena Karelab Song the Jesu Tumba.
잘못하다 기분 얘네 다 세랍 친구 제와는 좀다 맞춰 제와인데 지신도 그러와 아니 셰야 제와지 량 그러와 텐디다 텐디지 제와지 량비 까블라 테네 에지 맞춰다 잡든 중 마셔 좀다 잡든 중 마셔 담비 추던 티버쇼 제마타도 추던 티죠 정도 제마타도 추던 티니 기마타도 추던 티니 에드니 추도비약 티니 코카비와 그러와 딱히 당가서 잡던 동 좀비나 티니 코카비 양아유 그러와 맞다 강한다리야 지 기마타도 라티니 추던 티바 추던 티니 틀려야지 담배 추던 티니 지 토바다 곰바다 삼바치야 요와 티니 지 충고슬라고다
And in all of my lives, may I be a renunciate, essentially meaning may I enter the the order of monastics by taking ordination and engage in the practices of consistently study, contemplation, and meditation. Meeting with the Dharma, meeting with the Dharma and throughout all of my successive lives, may I become a renunciate, take up the vows of ordination, and engage in the conduct of, or engage in the activities of study, contemplation, and meditation.
다나 디지에 될다 당기 들어와. jarwa gunji ji solo jorde sambo juba yon su doji ji sutim juba timi yon taba tada manin chum juba hios.
So then the next line says, then following in the footsteps of all the Buddhas and perfecting the practice of a bodhisattva, may I always act without error or compromise, with ethical discipline, faultless and pure.
Oda tieni teyang tini da changcho simbeke joba rawa jarwa gunji kitini da sanji tang changcho simbeke song xiaoba o tieni changcho simbeke joba telayang tini jik serap gundu yang tenba tang songre tini tega nagi ke 대 마오 타타 투좀지 yarwa gunji tene ko song to ke zeba ta tamle tene ji 용 조지지 정다 배나 랑기 장저 선비 기어봐 로그 요리 대장 맞이 베게 tene 야세 장저 선바 소 코라라 양다 지 대용기도 와 직구성도 zeba tene 자친 못한 되지요 줘버리고스.
And so this is also kind of the aspiration that we might be able, following in the footsteps of the Buddha, of the Buddhas, we may perfect the practices of bodhisattvas, and that our activities may become truly expansive. So just engaging in the conduct of bodhisattvas, just as all of the victorious ones of the 3 times follow the conduct of, or perfect the conduct of bodhisattvas from lifetime to lifetime. De maung data de apokomaso de dusum gidina.
오다 데와 산지에티니 양다버조비 산지 다탐지티니 지 제바 칠니 데모타트 투좀 산지 고선토 그연엔 제바트니 담지베 자치보야 용쇼 조버쇼스.
And so may all of the enlightened activities, or may I emulate the enlightened activities of all of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of their enlightened body, speech, and mind, the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the past, present, and future, who perfect the enlightened deeds, may I emulate the enlightened deeds and activities, the vast deeds and activities of all these Buddhas of the 3 times.
그거는 다 추첨중에서 다 가서 추첨이 요러와 배는 가서 domba 휴고 다 미게 주봉 추첨니 손데 되네 지가 두와 세나리 되네 최소서 tarbi dumba 되네 나 창조 선비 되네 다 라바세는데 추첨 상황아지 그 추첨 와다 들이 추첨 공부 지 요인 말이 추첨도 참만라 되네 순간에서 올라더니 수렴기 쫑은지 마고 천만미 봐. 좋아? 수렴지 배 수렴대 요에서 온다 미에서 온다 되니 많이 봐. 배 천만미 봐. 좋아? 용스 다 돼 봐. 정말 장장 대가 나기 되니 수렴 순간에서 올라다 지금 이게 왜 이렇게 수렴 순구 요나리 대가 나기 이게 지금 가서 다 데려봐. 나가서 년에 다 년에 기다 주점 중구요나리 6년 주점 중구요나리 다 개년들이 요로 개년 주점 중구요나 개년 나왔다 직나 직송비 개년 세안라고 되네 지 용조 송비 개년 세안라고 되네 용구요로와 다 되네 야야 손에 되네 지 맞아 다 지 getsuke. Tini tomba genyenki tomba. Wata chanjo simbi tomba ta kandi je imbi na tini je sutim sungye tisola. Tini ta yang taba je. Sung toba. Timami ba. Tinya sutim nyamma songba. Wata tini je tini yungwa hyos ta maam yagori.
And so then, as it says, may I always act without error or compromise with ethical discipline, faultless and pure. And so this is referring, to the ethical discipline, the three levels of ethical discipline. So the discipline of individual liberation or pratimoksha, the inner discipline of the bodhisattva vows, and the discipline of the vows or samayas of secret mantra. And so the acting with faultless discipline on all, at all levels, or with regard to these three levels of the vows, may my conduct always be pristine and truly stainless, without any fault or any flaw. May it be completely pure. And so there are the different, there, even without the vows of ordination, there are also the different vows, for instance, of the lay practitioner. So there can be the ethical discipline of, holding the full set of vows, even just for a day, or becoming a householder or a lay practitioner who holds the complete levels of vows, or all of the sort of essentially like all of the sojong vows for life. And so and then there are the different levels of, novice vows, monastic vows, and then the vows of full ordination, and so on and so forth, or the vows of, the vows of the novice vows and the vows of full ordination. And then there are the bodhisattva vows. And then there are the vows of secret mantra. And so, so here the aspiration is to always maintain all these levels of vows with faultless purity throughout all our successive lifetimes.
That issue tela. Tini 장기도 las다.
Okay, came 도 간래 제나 저랑서 장기 usarwa. 말해.
장기도.
Yeah.
tini 다 장접 선바 son다 장접 선바. tini 집 만로와. asa da ti da tin la cosa mo ti scongo modo. 인다 데리다 세코로 타이기 너 너지기 좀 다다 미기 남니 너와 근지 딱히 지담바 탐지기 딱 주된 노스.
So then the next verse says, may I teach the Dharma in the language of gods, in every language of spirits and nagas, of humans and of demons, and in the voice of every form of being.
어다 티인두 딱 가지 몰람 자기 요리 슬랍 땅에 몽바라 심지엔 키트니 도베 심지엔 키트 단 도베 키 통치비 네 갑라 소
His color 송나야 그래서 yeah
야 칼레 칼레 송
치탕베 치탕베 조포 송비어레 다다 간데 마웅바 좋아.
오케이
kain sanangi lepa chune kunda dipe kabe kaboyo.
오케이 다 데려와 다 몽바 송데 되네 마음바 조바 로와
Mhm.
되네 심진 이렇게 통치고 거로다
Mhm.
다들 통치 고비가라 간디지 고기거리서 노동 간디 지도 그래 라비나 다좀 끼라래 그러와 다
Mhm.
단다랑래 되네 에지 기 마히비나 되네 지 콜룽바 팀메텔라 고추 동토고 말봐
Mhm.
저데 끼라래 말해 다 끼야보지 신규나 되네 고추 동토고 와 보다 더 나이 그 뭐자마인 비게 되네 지 마음발랑에 사기 시에네 되네 사라 추동 토로스 대가 나이 기되네 루기 강되네 추동약다 네바로 용소스
Mhm.
다 대가 나이 뭐도 너지 저자 두고 뭐다 또 상매기가 되네 용소스는 다 배는 차샤위나 다 상지 좀 된데 다 장초요라 상지 좀 된데 오늘 이게 누파 아 너 티케 끼키니까 너 some 당비나 근데 사 산이 좀 된디 추송비 까라 근데 베나코랑 사냥에 좀 산이 좀 된디 사기로 송대원도 오지 거기 걸어 와 근데 그 무기 냥에 좀 산이 좀 된디 무기 다 산이 좀 된디 이렇게 추송비 까라 로터 좀 거거로 로커랑 끼나 오지 다 제가 나 이렇게 지 산이 좀 된디 이렇게 제자도 추송비 까라 그 제제기 다 선이 좀 되는 초점 너지기 오다 되네지 중국으로 뭐 됐나 이게 되네 가서 대추 송비 qabla 되네 나 되네지 기 되네 히로지 기 되네 이게단 도와 탐지 기 가는 게 되네 이제 추 대토쇼스 나보다
Um, So then here the aspiration is that may I teach the Dharma and the language of all beings, being able to accomplish the benefit of beings through spontaneously being able to teach the Dharma according to the mindset of each and every individual class of being. So really to be able to teach the Dharma is transmitted through language, and languages there's such a variety of different languages, each often every country, sometimes even different regions have different languages that are spoken by the people there, and not only that, but there are the languages of non-human beings as well, the various languages of gods, the various languages of Nagas, the various languages of different animals and so forth. And so the Buddha has the power to assume the language of whatever being it is that is receiving the Dharma. So whether it is the gods of the god realms, or the Nagas, or the Gandharvas, or the non-human sort of entities such as yakshas and rakshas and so forth, and so here the aspiration is to be able to teach the Dharma in all of these different languages of gods, spirits, Nagas, humans, all of the different human languages, and demons and so on.
다 되니 다 끼대 베마시위케 개치모로와 다 로주 몽보도와 아니면 벤다 카시 니마 폴리용 벤다 베메시 개바트니다 니메 여보 테마소이나 진디티니 코란 람가라야 트랜슬레이터로 통 티네 코란 폴레 립디티니 고 베마시위케 지 야케 현업나나 깨라유조케 벤다 티니 리티나요 고지 코랑 그 말이다 가서 노동도 강야마 유마 테네지 보 컨트롤 받아서 심지어 록도 초 어때 테네지 고 통성데 에스테니 제리다 빠네 아디샤 거다티 페메시 위키트 인디펜던다 아다 사칭 부티니리 시나야다고 지 칼세고다 코랑게 심지이나데 카리나다 테네지 킹아츠 팜보레스 고라 인디펜던다 테네지다 심지히다 로동도 치마다 와 통성반다 와다 테네다 통다야 게이트 케치모로와 와다 테네 인디 테네지 킹아츠 몽베게 심지하게 동 지벌라 아테네다 테네지 킹네 파틀레브로 랩톱으로 나 스탑 모남자가 걸어와.
So there is so the language and being able to speak the languages of beings, or the language of different regions and so forth is so important. So for instance, there's this story of a pandita who traveled to Tibet from India. Dinesh Shah knew Kedap, or the translator
우리 전에 고냠도 그 트랜스레이터로 요사라와 당보
Yini young translator dini ke shegirawa.
도저히 트랜스레이터 해송래라기.
Okay. So he was traveling with his translator, and he traveled from India to Tibet, but then the translator died. And so then he was stuck in Tibet without knowing how to speak the language. So he ended up just taking up, he became a sheep herder, and he never was able to really teach the Dharma during his time there. And later, Padin Atisha, realizing once he learned of this, was told the people, what an opportunity sort of they had missed, because, this was this really extraordinary pandita, or this extraordinary scholar, who wasn't able to teach, wasn't able to share the Dharma, because of because of the language, because of his lack of being able to speak the language.
어떻게 현업라고 현업세야 중국 중에서 현업세야디 그다 베네 자갈 샤다 자갈 그노 참에나고 디베네다 깨라침보레스
공기 밍 말와
말이 자갈 샤다 노 어다
So he was really famous, like both in the east and in the west of India.
Basically the India within India. 다티니 다티 휴트 테리다 디페지티 인사니 가르치는 득바 강남 드바 쳐바다 너의 득바 강남 드바 쳐바다 네 득바 강남 드바 쳐바다 스타 민투비 쳐 방와 소다 민투비 쳐 방와텔라
Oh, okay, yeah.
득바 강남와
De jelare, de enjikela.
어다 득바 강남 드바 쳐바다 tda malu yons changwa hyos.
So then the next verse says, may I be gentle-minded, cultivating the 6 paramitas, and never forget bodhicitta. May I completely cleanse without omission every negativity and all that obscures this awakening mind.
Tini da dikpa zone, da dikpa tila, da jatanga so dikpa sikdoa, dikpa de katsang ji xue, da dikpa siya tila, jatang ku dungin tewa, no lao, dikpa se na, mujik tini ji xubi na, jaba no ji xubi na, matil nagira wa. O da tenang yi ke song, nga so te, dikpa ji chibi na, tini tila pe pain, in suffering ki yungre se ya diko ta dikpa se da in da tini ma so ne ngaso dikpa mege wa ju se ya yorwa ona dikpa mege wa ju se ya no sami ba nga se ya no o da tini chi da tini ma ma do bi na tini chi nyum ba ya je ti thong la so wa tini yung yo des.
So then here, actually, the first part of the line comes, the last part of the verse comes first in the Tibetan, where it says, every negativity and all that obscures the awakening mind. So the first word is actually this word negativity, which in Tibetan is dikpa. And so actually this word dikpa, it actually sort of means like a hit, like literally like, yeah, like to sort of what is it
Beat,
that we say, like like to
beating
deck
them.
someone or beat
Punch.
like punch, yeah, it's like a punch. Perfect. And so this punch is like the punch of suffering, actually, because that's like exactly what happens when we engage in negativity. It's like we're giving ourselves a punch. And so the result of that negativity is our own suffering. And so if engaging in negativity, then we receive the punch of pain and suffering. And so negativity, takes many forms. It can take many forms, but in its most sort of kind of subsumed form, or kind of the most obvious of the types of negativity, are the 10 non-virtues. And then we also have, for instance, even more severe than that, there are the 5 acts of immediate consequence, or the 5 heinous crimes. And then really negativity takes the form of anything, it is anything that is motivated by any variation of the 84,000 types of afflicted mind states or afflictive emotions.
Tinda deba zondwa. Depa khan deba chorbata. Kar debgorsina. Tinda nga zoji depa yo wina. Tini changjeb sen machiwa jiba. Tini jiba minyamba. Minyamba tini chi konto periado tsamate dem dogres. Depa yo chimbo yo na maso changjeb sen bate lap togu marwa. Wata tini dem dogres debar chorbata. Tini drimgen ke chi changjeb sen ba machiba jiba. 지바 미냠바 콘도 페로바 장주 심비 라발라비아 드미한테 다 탐지 있으네 대답 말루바 용스타티 다 데바 미게바 카리나요 되네 장주소 다 디나네 민투위키 초다 장주 심비 라발라비아 민투위키 초 되네 다 데바세나리 조 당지리 와 랑제반지마 손다 랑진지 그 정도 글쎄 되니 랑키 진지 다들 현지 진지 연행 군지 고스 랑키 다들 야보트 뭐 히나 랑키 진지데 된다 글쎄 미게위 군지 고나오지 참 거리스 티인데니 다 글쎄나 데리다 랑지 번지 바텔라 다 민두기 비초 두켜다 랑지 번지 바리스
So this negativity becomes the obscuration to that which really obscures the bodhisattva aspiration. So we have the aspiration in which we say, may bodhicitta arise where it has not arisen, where it has arisen, may it not decline, where may bodhicitta arisen where it has not arisen, where it has arisen, may it not decline, but ever increase further and further. And so when there is dikpa or negativity of body, speech, and mind, then this becomes, that which hinders that bodhicitta aspiration. That becomes the cause for that bodhicitta to decline. And so, also when we say this prayer, then we're also making the aspiration that whatever negativity that has been accumulated, that it may be purified, and so therefore that bodhicitta, that precious mind of bodhicitta, may really flourish and become stronger and stronger. Because the obstacle to that and the source of all negativity is the mind of self-clinging. So when there is the self-grasping motivation in the mind, then this becomes the source of all sorts of negativities. And if there's self-grasping in the mind, then there is no bodhicitta. So as is said, to cherish others, or to sort of the mind that cherishes others is the source of all qualities, and the mind that and the self-cherishing attitude, or the mind of self-grasping, is the door that the door of all faults, or the source of all faults.
어다 대나 인가서 진지 정도랑 제반진 봐서 다랑 진지 레도 다 기타가서 ordinary is the confusing 요리야 랑 진지 레도 뭔가 랑 돈다 칸 독사마데 스타 나랑 지 드라마디나 지 나랑 지 독사마데 너 지 섬노 코그로와 이나 섬노 야보 담비나 텐디 마레스 기타랑 진지 세야디 다 초랑 그 돈다 도야요 말에 초랑 칼라사요 말에 초랑 칸바고 말에 베샤고 말에 계속 가야 말와 얘네야 지반 짐바스 nga 세야지 요래 nga 스지 유비까라 티네다 참아 뎁데고 드바라고도 드바세야디 에지 가르세고 dimhen도 오지도 랩 용구요 말이티나 카르드고서 nga 라바까라 카르데브들이 창접섬이 요 말이 힘에 요 말이 닌게 요 말이 보다 텐데도 오지 지리 다 랑랑랑로 저 마타 요 말이 얘나 랑랑게 섬노 땅니 랑랑 섬노 땅니 지랑 통다 친구 누구 요나든 되기도 와 되다 랑랑 섬노 땅 랑지부 섬노 땅 랑통다도 텐dom는 되기로 와 텐되기 말이 텐다 공투로 와 가지나 나 세양 고조 비슈라 강이지 티디오다 등이진 고조 살다 어다 틴디 인두 땅원에 여보 섬노 땅이나 뭐네 다 제번 지구구요나 랑래 여보 총구구요나 로 네카래 여보 타토래 여보 지 라차고고나 땅아 세야 효총 땅고다 줌생 가르스나 nga 세야 될 때는 다 미게원 줌홍 자와도 돼 이네 칼레다 자와도 되지 추비네 되고 요일랜데 와라와 뭐니 항상 빼야 버려와 가르세나 능인 중에 그 치노고 와라와 다때 빼라 다때 free from suffering 차게와 어다 텐디 다 하마고도 있지 고 컨피즈고 당가 지 참아 지 nga 지 섬노 마타위나 nga 통다 칸도 섬마레 너 요리 힌 당가디 티 말에 티리지 참바다 인제 창조 셈 현재 번진바 티리지 요위나 대 공티바 나기데 연내구 인제 긴중내 송로와 연내구 중내지 차대기 요레스
So sometimes we think that if that if we don't have the self-cherishing attitude, then we won't be able to take care of ourselves. or we think something is missing, or we feel like we won't be able to accomplish our own purpose, that will really, will really be at a loss, that this ends up being kind of something that undermines our own welfare and benefit if we don't cherish ourselves, and if instead we cherish others. So this isn't to say, that we completely abandon, our own purposes. Of course, we have to eat food. It's not like, oh, we don't need to eat, or we don't need, a house, or we could just like completely don't take care of ourselves at all. But when so it isn't it isn't actually
no related at all actually.
Not related at all, actually. But when we have the mind that is, motivated, or that is, sort of based on ego grasping, that says I, then this I is the so when there is the I, this is obscuring the mind of bodhicitta. So there's no way, as long as there's this self-grasping attitude there's no way for bodhicitta to be present. There's no way for the mind that truly wishes to benefit others to be present. And so the truth of the matter is that if we have the mind that cherishes others, if we have bodhicitta, then this is what truly accomplishes our own benefit. The moment we start, so we think, that if we are thinking of if we're acting, based on our own self-interest, that we're taking care of ourselves, that we're achieving, then that way we can make sure that we're achieving our own benefit. But the truth of the matter is, the moment that sort of mind that is focused on oneself and achieving one's own purpose has arisen, then difficulties have already started. Then suffering has already started. And so we have already blocked, the potential for our own benefit, our own temporary and ultimate benefit to arise. Dini jima di yapo koma song kare lapsang lo yo le depa.
다 제탕디로와 텐딩가 조 테레다 무슨 출발해 송도 출발해 당지방 출발해 버치와라 근데 다든지 맞다 방고로 당지 좋아 당지 뒤는 야 공아세야지 섬 코리아 메와다 찬로에 요 말이 뒤는 고지 칼레 지금 아주 콤비나 다든지 맞다 효충을 좋은도 요래스 근데 뒤기 연대와 당지 방위 기티니 평온에 칼레 통그레스 테네테네 대가 나기다 오다 드바다 오다네 그 드바 다 정도와 오다 드바데 장마쇼 소야텔라 다든지 봐 랑기 제반지 봐더니 지 장쇼 스타르 제제한테 랑 진지 장쇼 세야다 디모노들이
So the way to actually overcome or to sort of break down delusion is by abandoning the mind of self-grasping, to allow, or to move the focus away from the self, instead to turn the focus toward achieving the welfare and benefit of others. And as one does this, then the self-grasping will start to diminish. And little by little, as it becomes less and less coarse, this grasping attitude becomes diminished to a greater and greater extent. Then the benefits are gradually experienced or gradually become evident to a greater and greater extent. And the obscurations become less and less. And so here, this is essentially what the aspiration is. May this mind of self-grasping be purified. So then the next verse says, may I traverse all my lives in the world, free of karma, afflictions, and interfering forces, just as the lotus blossom is undisturbed by the water's wave, just as the sun and moon move unhindered through the sky. Okay.
Pena meto pe me kinala pe jiken di kinala je yona meto pe manna yitini ji meto pe mamriya damna na jebri ni na yo tega na yitini ji damji nyopa magowa o tenita jingdo wa singyen da tamji la tini nyommo be nyopa magowa tini ji yo was
So may I traverse all my lives in the world free of karma, afflictions, and interfering forces, just as the lotus blossom is undisturbed by the water's wave, just as the sun and moon move unhindered through space. Here, essentially, the aspiration is may I become completely liberated from the stain of the afflictive emotions. So, for example, just like a lotus flower arises out of the mud, but it is unstained by the mud from which it grows. It blossoms arising out of the mud and is this beautiful blossom that remains free from any stain, regardless, of having arisen from the mud.
oda tindi tega na yitini ga ta nima tandawa 어 다디 니만다와 게 테네직 심jen게지 통 빠드메 바지 니만다와 지리요래 얘네야 니만다와 코로나를 착판으로지 지지 오당한 게 되게 통치고 오다 녀배 통치 무십지 도표선 만다고다야 디휴르지 레와로 가야메와 아 레와 요 말이 얘네야 심jen 빠드메 통치고요 오다 대가나 이게 나조게 되네 지 라라지 심jen게 통나지 레와도 도바 가야메비 통네 지 니마탄 다베 켄도와 심jen담지가 베 강나 강도 편도와 대가나 이게 나조게 된다 심jen트다 담지가 종효 세야지 다들
And so then, as it says, like the sun and moon unhindered in space, so just as like the sun and the moon shines, and their light shines everywhere indiscriminately, without thinking, oh, I'm going to shine over here, or I'm going to shine over there.
대가나 이냐다 참마 베 펜히 토구요래 노상 samyo 말했어.
So in the same way, the aspiration is to be able to benefit to achieve the purpose and benefit of sentient beings without any, just like the shining of the sun, without, kind of an attachment, to benefiting this person, but not really, thinking of this person over here, but like the shining of the sun, the bodhisattvas accomplish the benefit of all beings equally, without any partiality whatsoever, without expectation or an attitude of partiality. And so the limitless being, the benefit of limitless beings is spontaneously and effortlessly accomplished, just like the pervasive radiance, the pervasive and impartial radiance of the sun or the moon.
긴당 같은 데라 탄다 참샤기 되네 고베 즉시대 연기우야고도 스템레스.
And so we will end on this verse, which is a really beautiful verse. So actually, it's an auspicious verse to end on.
근데 다 제탕가서 단다디 아스피레이션티 고 차요 말와 이나다디 고 제바스면도 되리다 가서 티네야 그게 주지라 고 산데라 가서 가주 드리 당고고 요러와 티네 인디티니 티 휴글마 휴기인스 산데 지마서 솔하.
And so we haven't been able to finish the whole aspiration prayer, but that's okay, because what we can do is we can continue to teach during the Sunday sessions, as we have the weekly Sunday sessions. So we can pick up actually with the next verse here, the next Sunday in which we have teachings after, or when we have teachings after the end of the winter teachings.
Okay.
Thank you for your patience.
So Rinpoche, there was some requests for the lung for the samadhi empowerment. Would you be so kind to provide that for us tonight?
다 들기도 외쳤지 그게 바이도 탭 듣기는 데 탭 말로 안 되나 있어서 그러는 거 같아요. 마지막 남가냐 배선전에 되는 동료들이 선대지 공동동명 의견을 얘기하는 것에 민선도 배만인다 다서 된jen들 거에 넘어들이 정말 해가 배넘어 좀 된데 도저히 등등 포모용 당진 제동의 영용 바다는 현상이 내장공제 등등이 되는 걸고 이제 우당우선 시기 내모를 현장에 와던 조정이 와던 제소야 그인서와 이게 와중에 나게 제소 Tamji dobe janjo jimboro ngo loma do jinchon jimbo dala wangul wanzi de zo loma do jinchon jimbo dala wangul wanzi de zo loma do jinchon jimbo dala wangul wanzi de zo loma yun mi zan zo ne wa za ka bo do de mi zan de lu je je jang be wang je do da ni san je dam je gin de we ge na lo la yi jin guan ni de je loma yun Nju jun san ne wa za ka ma de nya de ba de ma ge de ja zo e wang je da da ni san je dam jin de we ge cha tong a je ran yi ni de je loma yun je tou ji be be wa za ngo mo zhu de ni ga de yi je de ja 孙辈王家的当年上街，跟你头上去见俺那边青蛙跟那当了嘛，因为我当我这里结婚那上各种人把那些位王到上街他们这些各种都到你们一个经过你们很多到这些就这些，现在你不能给问题呢。有这个给问题，当然这我那有的关键了嘛，这就这我是你就讲嘛，六把他们记的，他这也是让我把它说死。哎。Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Jubanla, and everybody in the Sangha. Ciao, ciao. See you soon again.
Thank you. We're going to dedication.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
By the virtues collected in the 3 times, by myself and all beings and samsara and nirvana, and by the innate root of virtue, may I and all beings quickly attain unsurpassed, perfect, complete, precious enlightenment. May the teachings of the great Dragungpa Ratna Shri, who is omniscient, Lord of the Dharma, Master of interdependence, continue and increase through study, practice, contemplation, and meditation until the end of samsara.
Okay, thank you.